All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for your patience. Technology being the way that it is, but sometimes I have to wait on it. Go ahead and get started for Monday, February 12th, Planning Commission meeting. We're starting the meeting at 7:10. Do a quick roll call. Commissioner Neal? Commissioner Borger? Present. Vice Chairman Nicholson? Here. We have informed we have one absent. According to the bylaws, we can enact any business for the town. Quick vote for the adoption of the agenda. The agenda is in front of you. Commissioner Neal? Commissioner Borger? Approved. Vice Chairman Nicholson? Approved. I approve. The agenda is adopted 4-0. Quick housekeeping order here. Approved for the minutes for the previous month meeting. Quick vote. Commissioner Borger? Approved. Commissioner Neal? Vice Chairman Nicholson? Approved. I approve. The previous month's meetings are approved 4-0. To bring up town staff to do the introduction of the item on the agenda. Are you coming up? I'm going to open it up for public hearing. Public hearing is open at 7:12. Go ahead.
Are we able to bring up the first presentation? Just a few slides. Yeah. We'll go ahead. During the September 13th, 2021 meeting, the Town of Dumfries Planning Commission held a public hearing and then voted unanimously to recommend approval of the rezoning of 11 parcels totaling 93.5 acres to planned mixed-use district PMUD, as requested by Colonial Downs Group LLC, which included proper conditions. During the September 21st, 2021 meeting, the Town of Dumfries Town Council held a public hearing, then voted unanimously to adopt an ordinance approving the rezoning and to accept the proposed proper conditions. The approved proper conditions are requirements regarding the use and development of the property. The property owner developer is proposing amendments to the accepted proper conditions. The amendments have to be reviewed by the Planning Commission with a recommendation to the Town Council, then approved by the Town Council. Public hearings are required by each entity prior to any action being taken. And the proper conditions require a memorandum of understanding, MOU, between the town and Colonial Downs related to the park, which is part of the development and will be a separate agreement. The property owner developer is prepared to present additional information regarding the proposed amendments to the proper conditions, and we will be happy to respond to any questions following the presentations.
Okay. Call for the applicants. Just ask that you reaffirm that the application is accurate as of February 12th, 2024.
Yes, I do.
Okay. State your name for the record, please. Name your position.
Ryan Jordan, I'm the Senior Vice President of Real Estate Development for Churchill Downs Incorporated.
Yep. Floor is yours.
Okay.
All right. Can we do full view for the screens?
I'm trying to put it on.
2 seconds, folks. Sorry about that. Oh, all right. Looks like it's going to be the way it is. You okay with it? We'll keep going.
Thanks.
Okay.
He's gonna control it.
He's gonna
That's
control it.
fine, just like on over.
I'm saying next slide.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you, Commissioners. Again, Ryan Jordan with Churchill Downs Incorporated. We'll go to this slide, a little bit about us. We were not here for the original application, as Reggie mentioned, back in 2021. Churchill Downs Incorporated in 2022 acquired the previous developer's assets, including development opportunities for the Rose here in Dumfries. Churchill Downs Incorporated, most famously known for running the Kentucky Derby annually on the first Saturday in May. But we also operate live and historical racing facilities, casino gaming facilities, as well as some online gaming properties. Next slide. A map kind of indicating where we operate. Commonwealth of Virginia, states north, west, east of Virginia, as well as some properties in Florida, Mississippi, and Louisiana. Next slide, please. We do support and partner with the communities that we operate in. We have been in Dumfries operating Rosie's for a few years now, but we are more excited to open the Rose later this year. Next slide, please. So just kind of starting with a little bit of background about the previous project or the current project that's previously approved. The site for this location is the former Potomac landfill. It sits on the southwest edge of Dumfries, bordered by 234 and I-95. This project broke ground in January of 2022 and is a $400 million project. It was originally proffered to be built over 2 phases. Those 2 phases include a public park, 175,000 square foot gaming facility, 8 bars and restaurants, 305 hotel rooms, over 2,500 parking spaces, meeting and event space, and an entertainment and conventions, all still included in the property. Next slide, please. And these we can just kind of flip through. These are some renderings of what the project will look like once completed. What phase 1? Sports bar and race book. This is a rendering. The next slide shows a fine casual restaurant, a sit-down restaurant inside the facility. The next slide is a look at the food hall, which will be located in between the gaming facility and the hotel. 5 unique dining concepts, the great assets of the property. The next slide will show you the entry from the parking garage into the gaming facility. Just a rendered view of what the interior finishes will look like. The next slide shows you the hotel lobby, an upscale, elevated look. I'm very excited and proud of this project. The next slide, over 100 hotel rooms in the first phase, more to come later. But this is a rendered view of what those hotel rooms will look like. Next slide, please. So the development was approved locally again in 2021. As part of the approval process for that development, it was stipulated that the project will be built over 2 phases. So this chart on this slide shows you what those 2 phases are. Hopefully you can see the numbers here, but I'll go over them. Phase 1, the leftmost column, the original phase 1 HRM count was going to include 1,150 HRM machines. It was going to include up to 155 hotel rooms, a public park as part of the first phase, and the 2,541 parking spaces. All of the total parking spaces are being built as part of phase 1, and actually they're already built. Phase 2 was going to include an additional 650 hotel rooms, up to 150 additional hotel rooms, bringing the total to 305. A 40,000 square foot event space. And again, all the parking spaces were built. So the total is the sum of phase 1 and phase 2. The prior ownership group planned to open the gaming floor in October of last year, 2023, and the hotel was supposed to follow in January of this year. The construction plans, is an important note, while phase 1 could include up to 155 rooms, it was planned to open with 102. So that is what is built up there today. Back on the schedule, the retaining walls that are required to create the entry road, and that's what we'll talk about further in the presentation, those were much more complicated than initially thought. And that is the reason that the property did not open in October, and that's why it's not open today. It was initially delayed, or delayed past the initial opening date. So go to the next slide, please. So the delayed opening, not only did it delay when the facility could open, but it also impacted plant tax revenues to the town of Dumfries. So starting in October of 2023, we had some discussions with the town staff. We learned of the shortfall, and we started to talk about an agreement where we could fund that shortfall. It was our desire at that time, still is, to increase the game count in phase 1 above the 1,150 games to a higher number. Our concern is that people going to the facility if there aren't enough games to play, they might have to wait, they might then leave. We wanted to make sure that we had enough games to accommodate all the people that are going to come to the property. So since that point, we started to talk with the town staff, through a consultant the town engaged. We started to work on a proper amendments as well as two other agreements, which will go to town council tomorrow. Ultimately, we want to put our best foot forward for this opening. That's why we want to increase the games as part of phase one. If you go to the next slide, I mentioned that this agreement does come with some benefits for the community of Dumfries. First and foremost, we are going to contribute $3.6 million to fund that budget shortfall that the town has experienced. This amount assumes an opening prior to July 31st of this year. If we go past that date, for whatever reason, there's additional payments that will kick in at $400,000 per month. This ensures the stream of revenue to the town that it's not getting because that facility is not open today. The second point is we're going to donate $2 million to the town to fund the design and construction of a new community center in the town. We understood that's a process that's already underway in the town. We're excited and happy to step in and help fund that project that was already underway. It's important to note that with that donation to the community center, that is not impacting the park. It's not impacting the green space of the roads. All that's doing is supplementing and creating another amenity. When the resort opens, we're excited to announce that all non-tip positions will pay at least $15 an hour. That was important to the town when we started negotiating these community benefits. And we're excited to be able to offer jobs to people that live in Dumfries that will have a starting wage of $15 per hour. We're also going to work with the town to promote local hiring efforts, through recruitment efforts, to make sure that people in Dumfries have jobs. In addition, and the last point I'll talk about, because again, it was over two phases, the first proffer that was initially signed gave the developer, the previous developer at the time, the option to build phase two. With this proffer amendment that you have in front of you, it says that we will build phase two. So it provides a contractual commitment from us to build the rest of the project. Next slide, please. So the proffer amendment, again, it will rephase the elements of the project, but it does not change the total elements. The proposal will increase the number of games in phase one from 1,150 to 1,650. The total hotel rooms will be 102 as they are built today. So still within the up to 155, but it defines the actual number. The event space. So it was planned, while not proper, it was planned that we were going to build 16,500 square feet of event space. With this amendment, we would change that number to 3,300 and use some of that space to add these additional games. That was always going to happen as part of phase two. The space that was built was planned to accommodate the additional games with phase two, but our proposal goes ahead and installs those games in that space. You'll see phase two still comes back and builds the event center. We're not changing it. It was always part of phase two. We're just taking some of the extra space that we had as part of phase one to install additional games. The public park is still part of the planned phase one. It will still open at this facility, and the 2,541 parking spaces are still. Again, I just want to reiterate, we are not changing any of the elements of the total project. We are just moving some things around as part of phase one. Next slide. Traffic, when we talk traffic, it's always a topic of conversation, planning commissions. We do not anticipate traffic issues as a result of this change. We are, per the original proffer, we're constructing the proper commitments that we made as part of the original deal. We are extending the northbound left turn lane from Fraley Boulevard onto Canal Street to come to the property. We are completing the Potomac Shores Parkway extension, which was the preferred option in the original proffer. We were able to work with that developer, expedite that work. Construction is underway, and we anticipate that work to be complete prior to opening. One small change after discussion with town staff, at least at the opening, we are planning to leave Canal Street as two-way. I'm happy to discuss that further, but as our application and plans with VDOT right now have Canal Street remaining as two-way traffic. We do not expect an adverse impact on traffic with phase one, primarily because we're not changing the amenities associated with phase one. People that will be driving to the resort are coming for the historic racing games, they're coming for the restaurants, they're coming for the hotels. All those amenities are still there. We just have more games to accommodate those people that are coming. We expect the traffic change to happen with phase two when it's a new use. You have an event center of 40,000 square feet, people that are coming for concerts or events, a lot of those people come at one time. So the great thing about this proffer is there's a traffic study that will be completed after phase one, which will capture any improvements necessary to accommodate phase two, and then we can make those changes if needed prior to construction of phase two. Next slide. So phase two will follow after phase one, after completing the diligence items. We will conduct a traffic study. That study will capture the actual trips. We will know how many people are coming to the property, and then we can make recommendations, and we can talk about changes after understanding what that real-time traffic is. We'll also evaluate what the customer demand is, what their preferences are for the event spaces, for the hotel rooms. We will build those as part of phase two, but it's always better to understand what your customer preferences are before you go out and build the additional ones so that you get it right. I think one of the things about this property specifically is it's landlocked. We have a landfill on one side, we have residential on the other side, and we have I-95 behind us. Once we expand for phase two, we cannot expand again. So we want to get that right, and we will when we build phase two. Next slide. So just looking at, I talked about the offsite road improvement projects. These are all on schedule. Area one, we're installing a traffic light at our entrance to Main Street. That will lead up the entry road around to the road resort. There's some restriping going on, the local roads there. Then area two was the Potomac Shore Parkway extension project. This is an aerial photo, probably about a month old or so. They're waiting on a few permits, but they believe, or that developer believes they will have that project complete by the time we open. The next slide. So the original proffer contemplated this development over 2 land banks. And I wanted to make the point that, again, we are not changing the total amount of green space, and we're not changing the size of the park as part of this amendment. What we are doing specifically is the proffer always contemplated that at the end of 10 years, after completing post-closure care for the landfill, that parcel, that land bay 2, would be dedicated back to the town. It wasn't well defined at that time. So by changing the sizing here, we are defining the limits of land bay 2 such that after 10 years' time, it will be dedicated back to the town. We are also planning to have the park open by the time we open our facility this year. We are asking for contractual relief in the event that the grass doesn't grow as fast as we hope it will. And Virginia DEQ says we can't open the park because there's not enough grass on top of the landfill. We're asking for contractual relief to still be able to open. Again, the amenities, the park, the construction is still on schedule, and we expect that to be complete this summer. Next slide. This just shows you what I kind of just walked through, the initial land base. The area in green is land bay 2. That was the 80.5 acres that was contemplated to be dedicated to the town after 10 years. The park actually sits on top of that. That's the former landfill. The red dashed line shows the new entry road that will take us from Main Street all the way up and around the landfill to land bay 1, where the resort will sit. So after taking into account as the development has advanced, understanding that there are retaining walls and utilities underneath the road and the road itself, we're proposing new land bays after working with the town staff that will shift more maintenance responsibility to us going forward, such that the town doesn't have to maintain green space that's not really part of the park for land bay 2. So if you go to the next slide, this shows what the amended land bays would look like. The zoomed in image at the bottom left in yellow shows how Colonial Street will be extended up the hill towards the landfill. At the end of that, you will start a private driveway, which wraps around the base of the landfill and takes you to the rows. The rows is the white and red portion in the top right portion of the image. From that same end of Colonial Street, again in yellow, you can see the blue dashed line is a road that will go up the side of the landfill. It'll be a paved asphalt road that goes up to the top. And the CDG Park sits on top of land bay 2. So by defining land bay 2, the size of it as the approximately 62 acres you see here, the area in red, that maintenance responsibility shifts to us as the developer. This is green space that's left and right of Colonial Street and also our private driveway. And we want to make sure that we maintain well-maintained green space for all of our guests, not have the town be responsible for that maintenance, just to ensure it's one less thing for the town to do, and something that we can make sure we maintain a great arrival experience for our guests. You go to the next slide. This shows what the park will look like at the top of land bay 2. Going back to late 2021, October and December, 2 charrettes were held. Many of you may have been there. Council members were there. Citizens were there. They were held virtually to understand what amenities did residents want to see on top of this park. And so we listened to a lot of great ideas. Unfortunately, it is on top of a landfill, so there are restrictions about what we can actually put up there until we complete the post-closure period and DEQ will approve more. But we are very excited to have the amenities that you will see. Again, it's about a 7-acre park. You can see most of it is occupied by one large area in green, which can accommodate a full-size soccer field. There's a dog park, area number 1. There's a kids playground area, which have more pictures of the type of equipment that would be in that playground area. There's a picnic area, no grilling because you're on top of the landfill and there's gas concerns, but there's a large picnic area with some great views. Really high up, you can see out when you get up there. So we're really excited about the amenities that the park does have. If you go to the next slide, I'm just kind of showing you the dimensions here. This is a full-size soccer field. They can accommodate a 110-yard long soccer field by 75 yards wide. That's if you were to stripe it as one soccer field. 2 youth soccer fields could fit running the other direction. So if you had 2 youth soccer games that you wanted to play, there is space to do that. The parking lot, which is a gravel parking lot next to that, can accommodate about 95 cars. So it can accommodate various activities on the fields. You go to the next slide. This will show you a couple images of the structures that will go on top of the landfill. Again, we are on top of the landfill. There is a liner that caps the former waste, and then there's about 2 feet of dirt that goes on top of that. So there are restrictions on what you can put on top of the landfill because over time, the trash will settle and compact. You will have low spots in the grass. And so you can't put things that could break in the ground. You can't put physical structures that could lean or also break. So we worked with Virginia DEQ to make sure that we proposed a park plan that met the goals from the charrettes, but also could be approved by DEQ to open to residents. So we were excited about some of these. You can see some of the swing set in the top left, which is ADA accessible. You can see a couple of the park pieces. There's a fire truck and there's another truck with a slide. There's some musical instruments to play. There's a climbing dome. And then the bottom left image is a restroom. This is one we worked with town staff and worked with DEQ to make sure that we could do this. We can't have running water. We can't have sewer because those pipes go in the ground. DEQ does not want those in the ground, at least until the closure period is complete. But this restroom has a cistern underneath it that will hold water and hold waste. So we're responsible for pumping out the restroom and filling the water, but it's a running water restroom that's powered by solar energy. So it has lights inside. So guests that are using the park have a running water restroom to use. So excited to be able to incorporate that as one of the additional amenities of the park. Next slide, and just to hit it quickly, we are recruiting jobs. We are planning to open later this year. This property will be led by Bobby Sample, joined here tonight, General Manager for the Rose. She is in the process of filling 400 positions, although we were talking earlier, the additional games would come with additional jobs for the town of Dumfries. So very excited to recruit additional people. There will be 12 senior leadership positions. 17 of those are already on board. 75 supervisory positions, some tipped positions in addition to the non-tipped positions that I've talked about. But again, with this LOI with the town of Dumfries, those non-tipped positions will start at $15 an hour and be promoted through job fairs to residents of Dumfries. The next slide, just a couple of bullets about some of our recruitment efforts today. Doing job fairs, Nova Community College. We plan to hold additional job fairs, working with local culinary schools. Again, the 8 food and beverage restaurants are going to need a lot of great culinary staff. Currently in the process of interviewing for an executive chef. Opening a gaming facility like this, security and surveillance are one of the first roles that we like to fill. So those efforts are in place, and we would like to have a lot of those in 120 days prior to opening the facility. Everybody, though, will be onboarded at least 1 month prior to the facility. That next slide would conclude my presentation, but I'd be happy to take any questions, or if you have any more for the rest of the team, we can also as well.
Thank you. I want to open it up for questions from commissioners. Commissioner Borka, any questions for the applicant?
I do. I have several. From the presentation itself, you said the restroom is solar powered. Is it solely solar powered, or on a day where it's raining out, they just won't have lights in there?
No, the solar panels charge a battery. So if the battery will hold the energy over time. If you had a prolonged period of time, there could be an opportunity where you might not have power, but it's designed to operate in this type of.
Okay, but there is a battery.
Yes.
Okay. On the slide 21, showing the Land Bay 2 and the rows with the stripe. Item number 6 is Prince William County Service Authority.
Yes,
So is it the intent that the land maintained by the property owner be accessible for Prince William County Service Authority without anything blocking their way?
correct. What's not shown here, the road that leads up to the CDG park,
Mhm.
there is an extension of that that goes to that parcel as well. It's actually elevated higher than the roads itself, so they have to start driving up that road to the park. Then there's another road that goes back down towards their property.
And does that area 6 encompass and protect the fort that's up there?
Yes, and there is new fencing that is going in around that property as part of this project.
Thank you for that. That's a very old Civil War fort. People haven't seen it. They should take the time someday to go up there. So thank you for that. I have several other questions. In the agreement section under force majeure, it lists strikes, lockouts, labor disputes, and labor shortages as a reason for force majeure. And I realize I'm not a signer on this document, but if I were negotiating, I would have an issue with those as being a force majeure issue versus a general like delay issue.
And just so I can clarify, are you looking at the proper amendment itself?
This is an agreement.
The LOI.
The other way. Oh, yes.
And the LOI was negotiated with town staff. I believe that the proper amendment is the main discussion point tonight, but the LOI has been discussed with town staff.
Couple other questions. What is the date for phase 2 to begin?
It is not currently proper. What is required is that we do a traffic study first. So once we have the information for that traffic study, if it requires anything, that obviously involves other external agencies that we might have to work and coordinate with. But we will start that traffic study right after phase 1 opens. If there's a time frame we need to talk about, we can. But there are so many other things that would come after that we just don't.
Like a group of thought and not to exceed. So we don't know if phase 2 is going to start 10 years from now, or 15 years from now, or 21 months from now. So some type of time frame not to exceed might be good to discuss. Final question is a little more general regarding the event center. In reading it, it looks like we can hold concerts and things like that at the event center. Is it intended to construct in a way with permanent risers where you would have concerts? Or is it going to be built like you can have surrounds for events or expositions and things like that? Because that really puts it in one category or another as far as use.
So our hope and goal, again, we will finalize that construction drawing before building it. We have conceptual for phase 2 right now. Would that be flexible? We are open to input. If we want to discuss that, we certainly can. But what has worked really well, a lot of our other properties is a facility that can have a flat level floor with seating that can retract back, and you can have conventions and banquets and some of those other things, but have seating that can also accommodate a concert or something else. So we would prefer the flexibility to be able to have both, and we've seen that be most successful with a lot of both.
Thank you. I know there was an initial concern about the overall square foot or acreage, and that the change in acreage really is so that the owner can maintain the difference in land, which makes sense if that's your driveway in and out. I thoroughly reviewed the documents. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Porter. Commissioner Diaz, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I just have one question. I can't hear the question. Oh, the question is the parking space. So it's total is 2541 spaces. So that's including hotel rooms, hotel people, everything like stuff like that. So I want to make sure you have enough parking, not what you have to.
Yes, the total number of hotels or parking spaces was part of the MZP process, and it was presented in the MZP how many spaces are required for the full phase 2 development, which contemplated all of the uses, phase 1 and phase 2 fully constructed. So that was already a proper condition, and we have constructed all of those as part of the phase 1 development. Yes, yes. And that was vetted, there was a traffic study submitted as part of the original project.
Ma'am, Vice Chairman Nicholson, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, a couple. So as far as the event space being built in phase two, that room that was initially, I guess we were told it was gonna be like multi-purpose, so to speak, that's the area where the additional gaming machines are gonna go now, right? In the phase one, so will there be any space within that for any type of small event or conference to be held within that space?
So there is still about 3,300 square feet of space for events, even after adding these additional games. And so underneath the first floor of the hotel, the spaces are built today. There's about 5 different rooms. So you could accommodate meetings, events of different sizes. What you just don't have is the 15,000 square foot room. So with phase two, a much larger event center gets built. It just doesn't come until phase two.
All right, and then as far as the hotel rooms in relation to the additional games that are being put in, I hear you saying you want to make sure that, you know, we have enough games to accommodate the people that come so that they don't be discouraged and turned away by not having or not having to wait. What's going to be the plan if the same thing happens with the hotel rooms? Because you're adding these games and a lot of people that come to these facilities do like to make a weekend out of it or whatnot. So we don't want anybody to be discouraged because there's only 100 rooms that are gone like that. So what's your plan from that point as far as getting these other rooms up and going?
Sure. Well, I guess 2 points. So I guess the point I was making on the games had more to do with traffic, where you don't really have a reservation process to come play a game. You just show up and you walk around and play a game. At least with the hotel rooms, you go online, you make a reservation, you know if you're going to the property, if you have a hotel room or not. I think for phase two, we want to know how many people want to stay there. We are very excited and really think this property is going to do very well. And we want to know how many people need those rooms. We've done this in several other properties, one actually in Louisville, Kentucky, that has had several expansions. And we know the type of rooms they're looking for. We know the amenities they're looking for. And so once you open a property and you build a database full of people that are coming to the property and they can answer surveys and tell you what they're looking for, that will better inform how many hotel rooms, what type of hotel rooms, whether they're standard, whether they're suites, adjoining rooms, whatever those are. Once we have a database built up of customers, then we can survey and find out that information.
And my third question in relation to the park and the fields, who is responsible for the actual marking of those fields or laying out? Is that something that you guys would be doing or the town would be deciding how we want those fields to be used?
Sure. So the MOU agreement, which is a separate agreement that we've discussed, that outlines a lot of those responsibilities. And so for the 10-year period until the land is transferred over to the town, we are responsible for all maintenance activities. So cutting the grass, cleaning the restrooms, moving snow, all of the maintenance type activities. The one item that the town is responsible for is setting up that field, specifically how it is to be striped, because one of the things that we don't do as operators is schedule those type of things. So if there's a recreation department scheduling soccer tournaments, we wouldn't know necessarily when that needs to be set up or be best positioned to do that. So that's the one item that is a town responsibility going forward. But all of the maintenance, the expense of keeping it up, dealing with the land that settles, filling in the dirt, keeping the grass growing, that's our responsibility for the 10-year period.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody answered my question. Only other question I have is for the traffic study. Has it already been scheduled with VDOT for phase two?
It has not yet, no.
It's not? Those are my only questions. I want to open it up for anyone has any questions of the applicant from the audience. Questions? Not, I am going to, yes, sir.
So, I just want to, thank we appreciate you coming to town and supporting town. We understand that this is a business transaction. And I just want to make sure that, as the commissioners were taking consideration that, phase two is a big issue for the city. Everything that's happening in phase two is about the community. It's not about the game. It's about the community. So not having a specific date is a concern. Commissioner Walker said, if we can, 15 years down the road, there's nothing in the park which is gonna guarantee that this thing will be soon. That also goes with the park. We use the issue. Understand that grass has to be grown on it before we can open it. But from the citizen side, who don't gamble, it's not gonna use your facility to participate in that event, those events. That park doesn't open. Well, anticipation not looking. That's an anticipation. You said it could open when you open up the door. Looking at the grass, looking at the time it takes to grow. All here, no water. That's highly risky, to say it's gonna open. So I'm more concerned with the park than open sooner than later. If we don't have anything in the park that we have to do that, there's no, way that we can enforce phase two is happening sooner, we have a problem from the facility. And again, I do thank Tony now for something you took over, man. You did a lot of things for the community. We understand that. But everyone does again. And the constituents that come to me, they did not want to continue to do in the first place. So there was these other things that we say. Concert hall, amenities in the facility that we can go and dine. Those things were appealing to citizens. So again, I understand you did this transaction. You guys need to open. You guys have invested a lot of money in the project already. We understand that. If we don't want to do that, we can hold 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
Thank you. I would just,
One second, Councilman, I know you, but just for everybody else, can you let everybody know who you are?
I'm sorry, Tyrone Brown, 7590.
Councilman Brown, everybody, right? So go ahead.
thank you for those comments. I just wanted to let you know what we think about the park today. Use the term anticipate. We anticipate the park to open this summer. It is on schedule. If you were driving down Main Street, looking up the hill, there's grass growing. And looks like we're getting a little more rain tomorrow too. So that's all a good thing. It kind of depends on the weather. And we have been pushing and pressing and trying to get the park open. But the proper amendment that you'll see, it really just has to do with kind of the what if scenario. If we make all of our best efforts to get it open and for whatever reason, a third party tells us we can't open it yet. So we are making every effort we can to get it open. The park is part of phase one, it's not part of phase two. So it will open with phase one. And we're doing everything we can to get that open for the citizens.
State your name.
Yes, it's Cornell, Miss Cornell on Colonial Street. We are the only residential property that was left on Colonial Street. And when you say that you don't want people to be discouraged, well, we have been nothing but discouraged. DEQ fined Colonial Downs for methanol gas coming off of that property. And no one, absolutely no one, bothered to notify our family. Myself and family members were becoming sick when we would be outside. And I kept saying to the program manager that I kept smelling a very odd smell coming off of the property. And the way that I finally found out was by no one from the town or your company coming to us and telling us about it. So our outside exposure has been very limited. So I'm very apprehensive with your promises that you stand here and say, again, we were left. And you talk about all this money you all have. You cannot convince me that with your deep pockets, you couldn't have done the right thing and purchased us out. Doing this what we were told has not been occurring. There are times that I cannot even drive over to our property because the rain wash off has created deep trenches. The fencing didn't go up as promised prior to doing the demolish. I could stand here and go down the list of things that has not occurred and the headache that has been not even something so light as a headache, but the in total disruption of our lives because of what's going on. And the biggest thing that really, really is overwhelming is how Colonial Downs could be so blatantly greedy about the project and not come to us and tell us about the methanol gas.
I respond?
Yeah.
Well, so I think the DEQ violation that you're talking about, that happened before we purchased the property. So that was a previous developer. I'm actually looking at my team. I don't think it was a methanol gas release. I know we've worked with them on making sure that the slopes and the banks don't have runoff in their compacted and there's not loose trash. DEQ comes out and inspects it regularly, but I'm not aware of a methane gas emission, certainly as long as we own the property. Do understand that as a neighbor, you have gone through having the property prior to ownership as a landfill, so lots of traffic that goes on when you have a landfill. Now we're going through a process where we're converting that into green space, into a park and into a facility, which from your property will be around the road on the other side of it. So I appreciate your patience as we go through the construction. We are trying to finish as quickly as possible. We have a team on the ground that I don't know when the fence was built, but I know it was as long as we've owned the project, and we have people on the ground. I know you work with them, and we commit to and try to be as responsive as possible. I just encourage you, if you have any concerns, let us know. We will react to those as quickly as we can.
Well, it would be nice then if someone from your company had reached out to us to say, now I'm the one who's heading this up. We now know. But again, nothing. Just like before 2021, when this vote occurred, we were not notified. The other 3 properties on the street had a non-disclosure on them. Absolutely no one reached out to our family and talked to us. And my dad, who is 93 years old, is the longest landowner on that street. My dad has owned that property for 73 years now. And I'm here representing them because unfortunately, my dad is in the hospital right now. So this has not been pleasant. It's not been pleasant to have a property that he's owned for so long, purchased when, for us to be done this way. And it's not only you, but I also hold the town council also responsible for it, because the town council who works for my parents, no one from the town council bothered to talk with us either, and still has not talked with us. I've written letters to the town. I don't have your information, so I can't CC you on it, but there were plenty of letters going to the town, and we have been nothing but adversely affected since day one.
Can I add something?
Yes.
First I want to say, and I want everybody to understand, people in this room and those that are watching, people keep wanting to confuse these 2 companies. Colonial Downs is Colonial Downs. Churchill Downs, which is who y'all are, correct? Is Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs has taken over this project from Colonial Downs, who initiated it. They obviously are hearing your concerns now, and I assume they will address those accordingly. But they cannot be held responsible for what the ones before them did. The other thing, and this I know for a fact, you said no one from the town reached out to you. I know for a fact my wife has talked to you. And I'm gonna leave that at that. The vice mayor has talked to you because I was there. So I'm not gonna go any further than that, but I just want people to understand different companies different values, different motivation, and hopefully things will get better before they get worse.
Okay, then I'm going to address you, Mr. Nickerson. Your wife only spoke to me at election day, and she came over and she spoke, and it was not concerning that. In fact, I won't even say the statement that she gave to me because, well, I will. She said that sometimes you have to allow one to suffer for the good of everyone. And that's not what I grew up in this town believing and knowing. We didn't leave anyone behind. In my many military families, that's the code. You don't leave anyone behind. So that was the only comment, and it was election day. And I said to your wife, I'm sorry, but I'm the only one here right now to hand out the literature. So we're going to have to talk later. And we never did talk later. So when you say there was a conversation that went on and you were not standing right there beside us, the conversation didn't go any farther than that. But there are other people on the town council, and I reached out with letters.
We'll agree to disagree on it.
Okay.
Anyone else want to speak? If not, I am going to close the public hearing at 7:59 p.m. Want to bring up town staff for any other issues on the agenda before we vote for this.
With regard to this public hearing, and I'm sorry, this item, there are no other comments.
Okay. Or anyone want to bring up a motion to vote for the proposed proper? Motion. One second. So, all right, vote for REC 2004-001 proposed proffer amendment submitted by Colonial Downs Group LLC or sent to the town council for consideration. Commissioner Borka? Approved. Commissioner Nias? Approved. Vice Chairman Nickerson? Approved. I approve 4-0. It passes to go to town council for consideration. Next item on the agenda statement. I'm sorry, did I get the name wrong? Colonial Downs Group LLC, what's the correct name?
That's the.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes, sir, go ahead. Yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
okay, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, in your packet, you have a meeting scheduled for 2024 for your consideration and approval.
See it. Okay. Anything else? Sorry.
If we could get a vote for that schedule.
Okay, all right. Do a quick vote for the schedule. You do have the, it's not including the schedule for the conditional, I'm sorry, the CUP update, is it? Or are we doing that with the actual schedule that's been provided?
It will be included.
Okay.
For the comprehensive plan.
All right, quick vote for the schedule for the rest of 2024. Commissioner Borka? Commissioner Nias? Vice Chairman Nickerson? Approved. And I approve. You can go ahead and publish those dates for March through December 2024. Yes, sir.
That will be as noticed.
Okay, all right. Anything else?
Good evening, members of council. My name is Sandra Robinson. I'm the newly.
Commissioners.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm in my mode tonight. Yeah, members of the commission. I'm the newly hired town attorney, or relatively newly hired town attorney. And I wanted to introduce myself to you formally, as well as to take this opportunity to set up some training for you going forward. When I started here, I had a brief conversation with Mr. Tabor, the planning director, who indicated at that time that you were interested in training, and certainly I think that's a good idea in general, and I think foundational to our training should be this element of understanding the role and responsibilities of the planning commission, which is pretty much laid out by state law. And in view of our meeting tonight, some of the things that happen may be part of our learning process, but the idea is that when we set out and we perform any action, whether you're performing the action, whether council is performing an action, or I am performing an action, there is legal authority for it. And so to the extent that we need to just have sort of an understanding as to how I will be calling questions over the course of our times together, or to inform you if you don't know, I'd like to have just an opportunity to walk through with you what I think would be the role as you can sort of max it out and as it's defined by state law. So if you would, if you can look at your individual calendars, we're trying to figure out not only a time where this would be very convenient for you, but also to understand what, in addition to sort of looking at the legal authority of the commission, would you want to address in our initial training. Mr. Tabor indicated at one point in time that you had an interest in different types of law, but that was sort of broadly communicated. And so we wouldn't have an unlimited amount of time, but if you could just give me an idea of where your interest is, what particular area of law you're interested in right now, that too could become a component of our initial training. So I'm here in part to outline what I think we need to do in the short term and find out what you would like to do in the short term, and we can make it happen as quickly as possible.
I appreciate that. I want to put everybody on the spot just yet, and we do have one absent, so I want to give him the opportunity to check his schedule as well. I know for me, one of the things that I wanted to sit with you on is to take a hard look at some of our bylaws to see if there's any updates, opportunities for updates there.
Sure. And, you know, coincidentally, we did have a bylaw review. I believe there are some notes of mine that have been shared with you in advance of this meeting. So by and large, your bylaws look pretty good. There are a couple of provisions in there which I think are not in conformance with law. And so those would be mandatory changes. I did include what I would call recommended changes. So those are things that I think would make it better, but are not necessary. So that would be solely at your discretion. And that's less working with what's currently in place. If you think more should be added, we can talk through those things as well. So I'm all ears as to, you know, how far you want to go with the bylaw review and revision process.
I enjoy that opportunity. Like I said, give us a minute, a few days to let you know
Yes, sir.
which meeting that would be in, but you'll probably be within the next 2 or 3. I mean, definitely before something.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you so much. Pleasure meeting you.
Mr. Tabor, anything else for us?
Just finally and quickly, wanted to let the commission know that we are moving forward with the comprehensive plan update process. We are in the discovery phase, which is phase 2. And we have started the existing conditions review and anticipate the next steering committee meeting be held in April, which
Okay.
will be with the commission.
Okay. I'm gonna open it up for the commissioners. Any remarks before we adjourn? Commissioner Borka? No remarks. Commissioner Diaz, any remarks before we adjourn? Vice Chairman Nickerson, anything, sir?
No, sir.
All right, nothing from me. Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second? All right. Commissioner Borka? Approved. Commissioner Diaz? Vice Chairman Nickerson? Approved. I approve. The meeting is adjourned at 8:07 p.m.
Okay. Not in the